Inverse proportionality is the exact opposite of direct proportionality. So with direct proportionality, as one thing is going up, the other thing is also going up. As one variable is going up, the other is going up. So for example, the cost of a group of apples goes up the more apples you buy. Inverse proportionality, as one thing goes up, the other thing goes down. So for example, laziness and exam results. As laziness goes up, exam results goes down. You can check out my video on direct proportionality, but what we discovered was that with direct proportionality, you have the first term equals k, which is a constant, times by the second term. Now notice it's times by. With inverse proportionality, it's flipped. It's now divided by. Why is it divided by? Because then you have a fraction, whereas one number goes up and up and up, the fraction gets smaller and smaller and smaller, so the other number goes down. Let's do an example. The amount of homework tasks completed by a student, H, let's write H, is inversely proportional to the loudness of the music they listen to, M. So this is not going to be H equals K times by M, it's going to be H equals K divided by M. So with inverse proportionality, it's K divided by the other term. Notice how we don't know yet what K is, and we're going to need to use the numbers to work out what K is. As M increases, H will get smaller and smaller and smaller, wouldn't it? Like 1 over 2 is, fairly big, but then 1 over a million is very, very small. So as M increases, H gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Just like in real life, as the loudness of music increases, I can't really do as much work. I have more fun perhaps, so my fun would be directly proportional to the music I listen to. As the music goes up, my fun goes up, but my homework would go down. That's why it would be inversely proportional, and so K divided by M. Let's put the numbers in. When M is 7, H equals 4. So we have 4 equals K divided by 7, because we have M as being 7 and H as being 4. How would we solve that small equation? We have 4 equals K divided by 7. You might be wondering, why didn't I put this M is 10 inside here? That's a separate situation. We have to use the pair of numbers we've been given. The 4 goes with the 7 goes with the 4. They're linked. That's why it said when M is 7, H is 4. That 10 is going to be for our actual question when we're working out H. The reason why we put this pair in first is so as to work out K, and then we can use that K to work out H when M is 10. Our mission with proportionality is always to work out K. How to solve that equation? Well, we have this annoying divide by 7. How do we get rid of divide by 7? We multiply by 7 to both sides. So the left hand side becomes 28, 4 times 7, and the right hand side just becomes K, because the divided by 7 has been cancelled out. In other words, K equals 28. How is that helpful? Because now we can do the formula one more time, but this time we have M as being 10, K as being 28, and we can work out what H is. Let's do that. Now we have H as being the thing we're looking for. K is 28. Notice we're using the K we worked out in our previous section to solve the actual question. And we have M now as being 10. 28 divided by 10 is simply 2.8. So this person listening to music will get even less homework done than before. Before they could do 4 tasks, now when the music goes up to 10, they can barely do even 3. And that will be the answer to that question. Let's do one more example. And we're going to do a slightly harder example when it's not as simple a relationship, like here. A is inversely proportional to the root of B. Notice they don't always have to give you the scenario, what variables they're talking about. They can just use letters sometimes, A and B in this case. They don't have to explain the situation every time. A is inversely proportional to the root of B. When they say the root, they mean the square root. If they said proportional to the square, that would be B squared. To the cube would be B cubed. But when it just says to the root, it means the square root. When A is 100, B is 25. Write down a formula for A and B. Notice it's a slightly different question from the first one. We're writing down the formula. We're not working out a separate situation. What do? Well, with proportionality, if you think for yourself for a moment and then see if you get what I get, we'd have the first term, A, equals, would it be K times by B? No, inversely proportional. So it would be K divided by something to do with B. So we have the K on top, always with inverse proportionality, divided by, and do I just write B down below? No, it's to the root of B, to the square root of B. It's the most common mistake I see students make. So they get the divided bit, they remember that inversely proportional means K divided by, but then they just write B. They forget that it's the root or the square or the cube. It's not always. Sometimes, for example, in this first question, we just had a straightforward situation. But often they will make it the root or the square. They'll make it a more complicated relationship. Let's work this out. When A is 100, B equals 25. So we have 100 equals K divided by the square root of 25. All I've done is replace the A with 100 and the B with 25. The square root of 25 is 5, so we have 100 equals K divided by 5. How do we get rid of that annoying 5? And by the way, if you're wondering, is it always K? K is always the letter we use for the constant of proportionality. That's what it's called, the constant of proportionality. It's just a useful letter to help us solve these kind of questions. Don't worry too much about that. To get rid of this divide by 5, we times both sides by 5, just like we did in the previous question. For the 7, times by 5, we have 500 equals, the divide by 5 cancels out, so we have just K. 500 equals K. Right, you may have been following that, and then you're wondering, but how do I write down a formula for A and B? I've got K, but what do I do now? Well, that's basically it. You're done. You just need to write the formula again that we had at the beginning, just with the K that we now know. So we have A equals 500 divided by the square root of B. K is for life, not just for Christmas. Once you've worked it out, you've worked it out for good. And that's how you do inverse proportionality.